Hey everyone out there, we're back with another episode of the AC Podcast, bringing to you live all the NFL stuff that's going on in the league, getting to you all the scores and whatnot. Today on the docket, we got a lot going on. Obviously, the Eagles and their mishaps on numerous occasions. I have a special guest I'm going to talk Cowboys stuff with, a Cowboys fan himself. So this is going to be interesting for the first time. We're definitely going to talk about my Steelers and what they got going on. Obviously, we got to talk about that Rams game and officiating at the end. And then, of course, we're going to get into the Sunday night game because we had two of the elder statesmen going in at quarterback. Drew Brees versus Aaron Rodgers, a classic matchup. Two Titans in the NFL universe. And then we got to get to this Monday night special. Arguably the two best quarterbacks in the league. Two black faces of the league, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. So we got a lot to get into. But I'm going to just start with this. When you look at these Philadelphia Eagles, man, oh man, where do you start with these guys, man? This is an abomination of a team right now. They're a joke. Obviously, they tied 23-23 with the Bengals, just not looking good on any front. Offense doesn't look good. Defense looked good in spurts, but just not nearly enough from them. No turnovers on Joe Burrow. Obviously, they got 8 sacks, but just not enough. And then you're looking at Doug Peterson essentially, literally and metaphorically, punting on this Eagles season. Not that they had much of a season to begin with, because up until this point, they haven't looked like a team that can contend for anything, not even look like a playoff team. DVOA has them rated as the worst team in the league. You got Carson Wentz, who's looking like the worst quarterback in the league, leading the league in interceptions, leading the league in turnover-worthy plays with 12. There's just a lot to get into. But there's ultimately one person responsible for this. There is one person that I have continuously highlighted that is responsible for all these mistakes, for this roster, for this coaching staff. It's Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman has killed this team. His poor drafting, his poor decision-making, the way he's paid players, the players he's kept on the roster, his commitment to this old, deteriorating Super Bowl core, it's all his fault. This is no one else's fault but Howie Roseman's. And this is why I was advocating for this man to be fired. If we're just looking at what Howie Roseman has done since the Super Bowl, this is on his resume. The team is 18-15-1 since the Super Bowl. That is basically a 500 team. We're looking at his draft classes since Carson Wentz came into the league. If we just look at his draft classes, let's just analyze these. Carson Wentz, obviously, we know what he did. He was indirectly responsible for the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. So, you'll take that. He's a Pro Bowler. Obviously, right now he's struggling, but we're going to get into that later. Isaac Seumalo, I got no problem with that pick. Got no quarrels with that pick. He's a good, solid starter at guard, but he's injured right now. Wendell Smallwood, he's on the Steelers practice squad right now. And that's Carson Wentz's leading rusher for his entire career. Not LeGarrette Blount, not Jay Ajayi, not Miles Sanders, but a guy that's on someone else's practice squad, Wendell Smallwood. We don't even need to go any further with that. Vaitai, he's good, but he was a backup tackle, but you'll take that in the 5th round. Jalen Mills, he's the starting safety right now. Don't even get me started on him and all the blown coverages that he's contributed to in the red zone. It's either him or the corner that's responsible for every touchdown that we give up in the red zone. So don't even get me started on Jalen Mills and his mishaps. And then you got guys like Alex McAllister out of the league, and then you got Joe Walkers. That's only the 2016 draft class. So out of that, you had a decent draft, not a good draft, not a nothing to knock your socks off, but you had an okay draft. And then 2017, you get Derek Barnett, not nearly good enough for what he's produced. I mean, he's got more penalties in his career than sacks. As a first-round pick, he's a solid player, but not nearly what he's supposed to be. You draft edge rushers to be elite players with the 14th overall pick, and he's never been that. Sidney Jones, I mean, he's part of him and Rasul Douglas, 2nd and 3rd round picks. Part of the secondary that was sponsored by Skittles for numerous years. So we don't even need to get into them. They were cut this year. You got Mac Hollins, who had more penalty yards than receiving yards and was praised by the former receivers coach for aligning right and assigning right. Why can't I get paid millions of dollars to do that? Donald Pumphrey, we don't even need to talk about him and how Howie Roseman claimed that in 2017 there was a historic running back class that had Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Marlon Mack, Alvin Kamara, and he got Donald Pumphrey, a guy who's not even in the league anymore. Great talent evaluating on Howie Roseman's part. Legendary running back class, and you got a guy that's not even in the league anymore. Stellar stuff there. Nate Gary, who continuously busts coverages, has no anticipation, no zone coverage awareness, no speed, no agility, no nothing. Just a linebacker that just doesn't even belong on the field at all. You got him, and now he's your starting linebacker. And I already said this is the worst linebacking core in the league. You have Elijah Qualls, who I'm just gonna move on from him. I don't even know who that. I mean, it just is what it is. And then, second round, 2018, you trade out the first round with the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens got Lamar Jackson at the end of the first round because the Eagles won the Super Bowl that year. So you got Dallas Goedert in the second round. He's good, but he's injured, and he's only the second. He's the backup tight end. He's not even the starting tight end. So how can I really justify that pick when he's the backup? We're never going to know how good Dallas Goedert is playing behind the Hall of Famer eventually that is Zach Ertz. So I can't even really justify that pick that much. Then you got Avonte Maddox, a 5'9" corner that Jim Schwartz is loyal to and continues to play him on the outside, even though yesterday he was getting roasted and targeted all over the field. Then you have Josh Sweat from my alma mater, Florida State. He's a decent edge rusher for a fourth-round pick, so I have no quarrels with that one. Then you get to Matt Pryor, who essentially caused the false start yesterday that moved the field goal from 59 to 64 yards that resulted in the tie that we had today. And then you got Jordan Mailata, the guy who may end up starting next week because Jason Peters is down. This would be like the third or fourth starting tackle that we'd have on the roster. But mind you, he was a seventh-round pick. So you're just looking at these. And then let's get to 2019, my favorite one. Jim Schwartz, he knocked this one out the park, baby. He got Andre Dillard, a guy that the Eagles, a first-round pick, mind you, that the Eagles were dangling in trade rumors with the New York Jets just this past draft, and the Eagles have had issues with. He's a first-round pick. This is only his second year in the league, and now he's out for the rest of the season, tore his biceps before the season even started in training camp. But instead of taking Marquise Hollywood Brown, one of the best receivers in the draft, you took him. Okay, you took Andre Dillard. No problem there. Okay, you missed on him. Maybe you'll get a good receiver in the second round. Maybe. But no, Howie Roseman did his Howie Roseman special. We got Miles Sanders. I got no problem with that. Miles Sanders is a good back. I got no problems with that. But then we get to old J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Mr. Oh my goodness. Let me make sure I get it right because I don't want to do this man a disservice to his career. I don't want to do him a disservice at all. In 12 out of the 19 games that he's played, he's registered no catches. A second-round pick, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, still has the same stats for his career that he had when the season ended last year, 3 games into the season. 10 receptions for 169 yards and 1 touchdown. DK Metcalf got that in 1 game against the Philadelphia Eagles in their playoff game last year against the Seahawks. And then let's not even get into the people that J.J. Arcega-Whiteside got chosen over. I mean, he got chosen over McLaurin, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf. Who else did he get chosen over? Deebo Samuel. I mean, what is going on with this Eagles talent evaluating? J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, a receiver from the Pac-12. And then you look at who else they drafted, Sharif Miller. I mean, give me a break, Howie. And Clayton Thorson. I mean, this is a joke, Howie. This is a big joke. You're just looking at this Eagles roster, and none of these guys are major contributors on this football team. Some of these guys aren't on a team anymore. I mean, what is the long-term outlook for this team? Because I think at this point, I mean, it's inevitable that the Eagles are eventually going to go 0-5-1. You got the Steelers, the Ravens, and the 49ers in your next 3 games. The 49ers just dropped 36 on the Jets. I mean, I get it. It's the jokes right now. They're the J-O-K-E joke right now, but they still scored 36 on them with a depleted roster, just like the Philadelphia Eagles roster is depleted and injured. So I'm just looking at this, and I'm just like, what is the long-term outlook for this team? There's no young talent on it. The veterans who are on this supposed to be on this team to make this team good right now, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, who else is from our Super Bowl core? Rodney McLeod, Jason Kelsey, Jason Peters. I mean, he's not even really a part of the core. Scratch him. Lane Johnson. I mean, you're looking at these guys. We're relying on these old guys to produce high quality stuff for us, and it's just not happening. So I'm just really concerned. And I prefer the Eagles to just sell house at this point. I think at this point the Eagles just need to do a full sell house, a full clean house, because this is not working. This team is not nearly as good as they thought it would be. The offense, it's all over the place right now. You're looking at these draft classes. This is just some unacceptable stuff from Howie Roseman. I mean, when are we going to start giving this guy more blame? I get it. All the heat is on Carson right now. All the heat is on Carson. But this is the roster that Howie Roseman put together and told us was a Super Bowl caliber roster. And the Eagles don't have nearly enough talent on this team. So I'm just wondering what the Eagles are going to do going forward, especially with they got the toughest slate of games left. They still got to play the Arizona Cardinals. You still got to play the Dallas Cowboys. 2 times. I get it, they're not a team to write home about right now, but they got way more talent than you. I mean, I'm just looking at this stuff and I just don't know where to go. But I guess I do know where to go. It's time to get to my man Carson Wentz. I cannot believe what I am seeing from Carson Wentz right now. This is some of the worst quarterback play I've ever seen in my life. Period. I've defended this man. I said this man was a top 5 quarterback. I say he's the second most gifted thrower of the football other than Patrick Mahomes. And somewhere in my heart, I still believe that he's all those things because this just isn't adding up to me. These are some things that just don't add up. There's no way that Carson Wentz almost wins MVP, and he basically would have won if he didn't get hurt 2017. And to now you're fast forwarding, and this man looks like a bona fide scrub. There's no way. There has to be some coaching that's not going on. There just has to be something. Carson Wentz, he's never been the most accurate thrower. I'm never going to say that. But he's never been 58.8% completion. I mean, goodness. That is some that's some hot garbage right there. That is some hot garbage when you're looking at that. And then on top of that, 6 interceptions after he's thrown 7 the last 3 years in each of the last 3 seasons. You've already got 3 games into the season. You've thrown 2 interceptions in 3 straight games. First Philadelphia Eagles quarterback to do that since Ron Jaworski, who's on ESPN or wherever the heck he is now. I mean, man, oh man. And now people are calling for Jalen Hurts, which I mean I can't fault fans for, but this is another problem with the Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman created this situation. Howie Roseman has to be one naive dude, man, to think that drafting Jalen Hurts was going to be good for the Philadelphia Eagles locker room and the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback room. I mean, what did you think was going to happen if the Eagles started losing? You didn't think fans are going to start clamoring to see Jalen Hurts, especially when you draft him in the 2nd round? I mean, the Eagles have a 2nd round pick that is essentially sitting on the bench and is a decoy on a few plays every game. This just doesn't make any sense to me. But there's no way that you can put in Jalen Hurts right now. I understand the argument to do it, but you can't do that. You just can't do it. You cannot send that message to your locker room 3 games into the season. The season's probably already over anyways, but you can't send that message to your locker room. You just can't do it. And plus, the Eagles are committed to Wentz. They just gave him $107 million, 109, whatever the heck it is. And that deal hasn't even kicked in yet. This is technically his 5th year, so he's on his 5th year option right now. The deal kicks in next year. So there's no way you can, if you try to trade him or get rid of him, $59 million in dead cap? Oh, no. We most definitely won't be doing that, especially in the pandemic right now. And the salary cap is not going to go up. It's going to either stay the same or go down. No, the Eagles already have the 2nd most expensive roster in the league going into next year. And this team is already trash. You're telling me they're going to add $59 million of dead cap to their situation? Oh, no, they're not doing that. So the Eagles got to get this right with Wentz. They got to figure out a way to fix him because he's going to be the quarterback. That's for sure. And then you're talking about the next year after that is $25 million in dead cap if you trade him. So if you trade him, you are going to have $84 million in dead cap over 2 years. No, No, Eagles fans, we cannot be that stupid and that ignorant. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. We cannot trade Carson Wentz. No. They got to figure out a way. Heads got to roll. That's my thing. Heads got to roll. So if Doug Peterson has to get fired, if Ty Roseman's got to be fired, hey, Carson Wentz is the last person you get rid of to me. If you got to get rid of Doug Peterson first with his stale behind offense, or you got to get rid of Howie Roseman with his poor decision making and poor drafting, you got to get rid of those two first before you get rid of Carson Wentz, because for the next 2 years at least, there's no way you could put your cap situation in $84 million in dead money. There's no way you could do that, especially you already got the second most expensive roster. No, that doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. But Carson Wentz is playing poorly. There's no doubt about it. Decision making, just not good. Accuracy, it's all over the place. Mechanics, as I already said, they're sloppy. Footwork, horrendous. This is just hard to fathom right now. I mean, he got outplayed by Joe Burrow, man. He got outplayed by a rookie who had no OTAs, no mini camp, no training camp. It's inexcusable. Finally get to the biggest person responsible for yesterday's loss, at least. Doug Peterson, man. What are you doing playing the ball when you have a 64-yard attempt? I mean, I get it. You say, oh, well, if we miss it, then the Bengals get the ball right. Well, you don't play this game to tie. You don't play this game to tie. It's win or lose. You win? Okay, good. You lose? Hey, you got work to do. The same thing you've been doing the last 2 weeks. You've been losing the last 2 weeks. What's the difference this time? You'd been 0-3. I mean, now I get it. The Eagles technically got a half game up in the division, so now they're only half a game out of first place in this sorry division where two teams should be 0-3, and the Washington Redskins, or the Washington football team, excuse me, should be leading the division. But right now, this team should have 3 0-3 teams. This team should have this division should have 3 0-3 teams, but they don't, because the Cowboys got lucky. But their luck ran out yesterday. But when you look at this, Doug Peterson, obviously, what are you doing? Stop. Okay. Doug Peterson obviously punted the ball when he should have kicked the field goal. It is what it is. If you don't have faith in your defense, they can stop Joe Burrow from getting 12 to 15 yards. You don't deserve to win. That's just my thing. You don't deserve to win if you can't do that. So I just think that sends the wrong message to the team that you'd rather tie than win or lose the game. I'm sorry. That just sits wrong with me. And then I'm looking at Doug's play calling. Yeah, Carson dropped back and throw it almost 50 times, 47 times. And you didn't give Miles Sanders nothing. You gave Miles Sanders only 18 carries. Now they rushed for 175 yards on 36 carries in total, but 9 of those carries were from Wentz just scrambling and getting 65 yards. The Bengals came into this game allowing 185 yards rushing a game. What an atrocious rushing defense they are. And you only gave Miles Sanders 18 carries. You gave him 8 to start the game, and then you didn't give him any carries the next 2 drives after that. I mean, Doug Peterson, what are you doing? You got a struggling quarterback who's turning the ball over. I mean, why weren't you running the ball more with Miles Sanders? You said he's the feature back, but 18 carries? What is this, load management, Kawhi Leonard stuff? I don't know what this is. 18 carries isn't nearly enough. And he had Jalen Hurts. You had a sequence. This was just the epitome of the Philadelphia Eagles season right here. You had a play where Jalen Hurts came in on second down, did the read option with one of the running backs, fumbled the ball, and the Bengals almost recovered it. And then the following play, they throw a third down pass, and Carson Wentz misses Miles Sanders for a wide open touchdown on a double move on a linebacker. I mean, that was just the epitome of the Eagles season. That is the epitome of it so far. It's just not good. I'm looking at some of this other stuff. I'm just wondering when some of these other guys are going to get playing time. Because let me get to this defense, man. They played all right, but they're nothing to write home about. Because once again, any team that's going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles is going to quick pass, and they're going to target anyone that is not named Darius Slay. It's great. The Eagles finally got a number 1 corner. I'm happy. But this would have been great maybe like 2-3 years ago when the Eagles actually were struggling. I mean, now you got Darius Slay. That's great. But now everyone's throwing at Nick Roby Coleman. They're throwing at Avonte Maddox, Trevor Williams. He gave up a touchdown yesterday, but really it was Nathan Gary's fault. He gave no help, gave no underneath help to Trevor Williams. So Trevor Williams looks like the scapegoat on the play when really is Nathan Gary who's busting coverages again. I'm going to get to him in a second because, my goodness, these are some atrocious stats from him. This guy is a Nathan Gary, man. He's just not good. I'm just wondering, when are we going to see Davion Taylor, your third-round pick? When are we going to see Kayvon Wallace? You're telling me Kayvon Wallace can't get snaps over Marcus Epps? Is this what we're being told? Or is this what the Eagles are? Is this what Jim Schwartz and the Philadelphia Eagles are trying to convince us of? The Kayvon Wallace, a guy from Clemson, a safety from Clemson, cannot get snaps over Marcus Epps. Marcus Epps? You're telling me that Davion Taylor cannot get snaps on defense and learn over Nathan Gary, TJ Edwards, and Duke Riley? You're telling me he can't get snaps over these guys? I mean, come on. Nathan Gary has given up 13 targets, 13 catches for 158 yards, 2 touchdowns allowed, 10 first downs, 0 interceptions, 0 pass breakups, and a passer rating allowed of 156.9. I mean, my goodness. You're telling me Davion Taylor can't get in over that? A guy that's giving up 100% completion into his coverage? A guy that's giving a passer rating of 156.9? I mean, this is a joke right now. But what's even a bigger joke is Jalen Mills, a safety, consistently busting coverages in the red zone. I just don't get it. Every time the Eagles give up a touchdown in the red zone, someone is looking at Jalen Mills, and Jalen Mills is looking at the corner or the linebacker. Jalen Mills can't even get everyone aligned right. I mean, this just doesn't make any sense. The Eagles consistently in the red zone, what every team does to the Eagles in the red zone the past 3 years, tight and bunch sets. And for some reason, 3 years, and you can't defend the same stuff that consistently beats you in the red zone. I mean, where is the coaching at? Where is the coaching at? I mean, this is an abomination, man. And then let me get back to Doug for a second, because let me get on him with this 12 personnel stuff, this 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers stuff, man, because the Eagles spent all offseason talking about, we got so much speed. Next gen stats say they got the most athletic draft class, all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. Now, I get it. Marquise Goodwin dropped out the season. Jalen Reagor's hurt, all this stuff. But even the first 2 weeks, the Eagles' longest play is 55 yards this season. That was the first week of the season, like the second quarter. Since then, I mean, they just don't have any explosiveness. Deshaun Jackson, we can't find him. John Hightower, I mean, High Rosen said he was going to give Carson Wentz more weapons if he chose Jalen Hurts, so you give him 5th and 6th round receivers. Big whoop-de-doo, bro. Another mishap on your part. But the Eagles have essentially turned into the most slowest and most plodding offense in the league. Zach Ertz is not going to beat you down the field. He's a great tight end. Not a great tight end. But there's a reason that Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and even Darren Waller now, I can't even say him. These guys are better than him because they can get yards after the catch. Zach Ertz cannot do that. Now, Dallas Goedert can, but Dallas Goedert's hurt right now. You see, that's why the reason he was leading the team in receiving yards and catches and targets the first 3 games of the season. But you're not going to have any explosiveness on offense throwing it to the tight end. And some of you will say, the New England Patriots did that once with Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. Well, yeah, they have some receivers on the outside to open up the field. What Eagles receiver are you scared of on this team? The Eagles' best receiver is a 33-year-old Deshaun Jackson who's not getting any targets. So what am I going to play? Why am I going to open? How are you going to open up the field if Deshaun Jackson's not getting deep on anyone? The field is getting condensed. Teams are condensing their coverages and just funneling them towards the 2 tight ends, which leads to you having to have perfect drives, because when you're throwing to these tight ends and they're only getting 7 to 8 yards and you're nickel and diamond teams, that's when Carson Wentz's inaccuracy just looks even worse, because when he starts missing a lot of throws and you're not getting any explosive plays, it just highlights his inaccuracy a lot more. And this is a complete mess. At this point, I just want the Eagles to sell house. Just trade away Zach Ertz, trade away Fletcher Cox, trade away Brandon Graham, trade away, get rid of Derek Barnett too. He's just not good enough. I know he's still a young player, but he's just not nearly good enough. At this point, he is what he is. He's a solid player. He's not a good player. Trade away him. Jason Kelsey, you got to sell on him. I'll keep Lane Johnson. But you got to get rid of Jason Kelsey. You got to get rid of Rodney McLeod. And you probably can't get anything for these linebackers because they're all just a bunch of scrubs. So there's no way anyone's going to take any of these linebackers off the Eagles' hands. But you just got to sell house and then put in some of these draft picks and see what they can do. Let them learn, let them develop, let them make the same mistakes that these other guys are doing because this is a catastrophe right now. This is not going to go. This is the second most expensive roster in the league next year, and you're not getting nearly enough production out of it. You're arguably going to be an 0-5-1 team after 6 weeks. And this is the most telling part of everything. This is the most telling part of the Philadelphia Eagles season. They played the Washington football team and the Cincinnati Bengals, and they are winless. They're winless against the two teams that had the 2 top picks in the draft. The Philadelphia Eagles are winless against the 2 teams that had the number 1 overall and number 2 overall picks in the draft. Let that sink in. And that's where this Philadelphia Eagles organization is headed right now. But I digress. Let's move on to a more successful franchise. Not that they're that much better at this point. Deserve to be 0-3. But I got my special guest with me here, Jordan Green, Cowboys fan himself, here to talk. Tell me what is going on with these Cowboys. So please introduce yourself, Mr. Jordan Green.
Hey. First and foremost, I appreciate you for having me on the show and bringing and shedding light on America's team. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. I can already see where this is going. I can see where this is going.
So it's been turbulent weather every week. But I would like to say, the first week watching us play the Falcons, the Rams, they ran through us. So that was hypercritical of that. Week 2, slow down Todd Gurley, and week 3, same old. So we're making patches to fix a flat every week. Maybe next week's the first week we finally have put together one solid game, but we'll see. I'm hoping. That's my biggest question for you. More importantly, is it time for Jerry Jones to start making some calls, or what's the game plan?
I mean, when you look at the secondary, when you just look at the Cowboys in general, this secondary, they're just getting scorched. And this is the problem that I had going into the season. This is one of the problems I had with the Cowboys going into the season. All you fans were talking up Alden Smith. You're talking up DeMarcus Lawrence. You're talking up this defensive line. You got Gerald McCoy. You're talking up this secondary. You're like, oh, Byron Jones. Well, he didn't get any interceptions. Well, he locked down half of the field, so that's still good for something. But you're like, we got Trevon Diggs. We got Woozier. We got Jordan Lewis. And those guys, they're nice. They're second and third corners, good at their jobs. But when you have to play that number 1 corner role, it's just a different type of heat. And let's just be honest. Trevon Diggs was getting scorched yesterday. He was getting scorched. He got scorched by Tyler Lockett in the end zone. I don't know if you've seen that play, but he got scorched on that play. He obviously got scorched on that lucky defensive play he made on DK Metcalf, who was foolishly walking into the end zone instead of running head first into the end zone and then celebrating. He just slowed up because Stephon Diggs' his brother. Trevon Diggs was obviously scorched. Then you're looking at Tyler Lockett getting deep on this defense. Whoever busted the coverage, Darian Thompson, Xavier Woods, whoever it was, but one of your safeties you're just giving up explosive plays left and right. And we're talking about what you've given up the last year. You're giving up 30, you're giving up 39 to the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, I already said this. I said the Dallas Cowboys are going to win shootouts, and they got lucky in 1-1 that they shouldn't have. Let's just be honest. The Atlanta Falcons, you saw what they did yesterday to the Bears. They choked away another game. So, I mean, the Atlanta Falcons are good until it gets about 7:50 in the fourth quarter, and then from there they lose their heads. They start making all types of mental errors and mistakes. They have not recovered since the Super Bowl, obviously. And Dan Quinn, he's just got to be gone. I don't even know why he still has a job. But that's not even. We don't even need to talk about them because the Atlanta Falcons are relevant. They're 0-3. But the Dallas Cowboys, I don't think you can bring in Earl Thomas. I know that's what you're hinting to. I know that's what you want. I know you Cowboys fans want it. I know you do. You're clamoring. You're hoping Jerry will. You're hoping you'll get that breaking news from Adam Schefter, from ESPN, from Ian Rappaport. The Dallas Cowboys have inked Earl Thomas to a 2-year deal. You want that news, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. If Earl Thomas really wanted to be on the Cowboys, he would be on the Cowboys right now. He would be on the Cowboys right now. If Jerry wanted Earl Thomas that bad, he would have already been on the Cowboys. I mean, we're talking about Earl Thomas played at Texas. He's from the area. He told Jason Garrett at one point he wants to be, come get me, all this stuff. He's a free agent. No one signed him. The biggest thing to me is 2 elite franchises have said no to Earl Thomas. This is the same thing I said about Antonio Brown. The Steelers, an elite franchise, a well-run franchise, said no. Took a $21 million cap hit, too, to get rid of him, too. And then the Patriots said no. And then from there, I mean, because we can't argue the Raiders are a good organization. Well, I just can't do that. They've been mired in mediocrity for a long time. But those 2 franchises said no. And then from there, that's what really stands out to me now. You want to get him for like $1 or $2, of course, he's still a talent. But I'm thinking the same thing with Earl Thomas. The Seahawks, who are one of the most player-friendly organizations, said no, and he flipped the bird at them. Then you went to the Baltimore Ravens, where John Harbaugh is one of the most player-friendly coaches, and he said no. Now, you bring him into Mike McCarthy's team, he's still trying to figure out the pulse and the culture of this, still trying to establish the culture of this team, and you bring in a locker room threat that has the potential to be a nuclear bomb on this Dallas Cowboys locker room, and I think disaster can happen because we already know something's going to get in the way of your guys' success. We already know that that's going to happen, but we already know who that person is. That's Jerry. Now, as great of a, I wish Jerry was my GM of my team because he could build a roster. That's for sure. He could build a roster, but beyond that, Jerry is going to impede the success of this team. Now, this season so far, I'm surprised I have not seen an interview from Jerry Jones. So maybe he's trying to stay out of the limelight. Maybe he's hiding. But we know once this team starts having its little trajectory downwards, he's going to come right into the spotlight. But no, I don't think that Earl Thomas, I think Earl Thomas would be a good addition, but I don't know if he solves all your problems because you have injuries in the trenches. You're not getting nearly enough production from Mr. $100 million man, DeMarcus Lawrence, who I told you was not producing. You kept trying to tell me, oh, Rondé.
That's what's happening this year.
Robert Quinn was eating because DeMarcus Lawrence is drawing double teams. Well, that's funny because I see Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram are a tandem, and I know one of them's getting double teamed. I see Joey Bosa still eating. I see T.J. Watt getting double teamed and Bud Dupree's on the other side, but somehow T.J. Watt was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year. So that's not an excuse to me when you're making $100 million. You got to beat double teams. That's why I'm not giving an excuse for Fletcher Cox. He's got until yesterday, he had 3.5 sacks in the last 21 games. You can't be the highest paid player on the team, a $22.8 million cap hit, and you have 3.5 sacks in the last 8 or 21 games, and Aaron Donald's consistently getting double teamed with not nearly the amount of defensive help on his defensive line as you, and he's getting 22 sacks. That just doesn't add up to me. I'm sorry. No, so DeMarcus Lawrence has to earn his check. That's all I'm saying. He cannot get these excuses of being double teamed because when you get paid that amount of money, when you're $100 million defensive end, you had to beat double teams. So you got that issue going on with your pass rush. Alden Smith looks good. Not great like you Cowboys fans try to convince me of, but he looks respectable for 5 years out of the league. He looks respectable, He might win comeback player of the year. Maybe. But we'll see. And then you got your linebacker spot that's questionable. Jalen Smith, he's good. I got no problems with him. But then you're looking at Leighton Vander Esch being out an extended period of time. Your linebacker spot is highly, highly suspect. So your front seven can be run on. Seahawks couldn't do that yesterday, but we've all seen the hashtag all season. Let Russ cook, and Russ was cooking yesterday. He was cooking something magnificent. He was cooking a Thanksgiving meal that you didn't want to miss because he dropped 38 points on these sorry Dallas Cowboys. And then we get to your secondary, where I try to tell you, I told you guys the defense was going to be the problem. I told you. And what do we have in this secondary without Byron Jones? Darian Thompson, who is a respectable player that y'all cut Ha Clinton Dix for so he could be the starter. You got Xavier Woods back there who's got some experience. Is a 6th-round pick, mind you. A good steal of a 6th-round pick. A great steal. Something the Eagles need to learn something from. But we've already talked about that. We're not going to talk about this abomination of a franchise. Xavier Woods, a good 6th-round pick addition. He can hit. He can cover a little. But yesterday he had a few mishaps. Then we get to your corners, which is the most suspect part of your defense to me. And you have Trevon Diggs, who's a rookie. It's good to get him experience and learn out there. He's got some traits that you can mold into a good to elite corner. I'm not going to deny it. He's got those traits to develop into an elite corner, but he's not there yet. So let's just pump the brakes on Trevon Diggs and stop talking like he's Patrick Peterson, like he's Darius Slay, like he's Jalen Ramsey, the best corner in the league, like he's Jair Alexander or Stephon Gilmore, one of those guys. Let's pump the brakes on that. And then we get to these guys. Jordan Lewis committed a few penalties yesterday. Chidobe Awuzie, we didn't say his name yesterday, so that's a good thing, but he's given up a few plays as well. So ultimately, all in all, your secondary, it can't be had. It can't be feasted on, which is what we've seen the last couple of weeks. He gave up 39 to the Atlanta Falcons, and he gave up 38 yesterday to the Seattle Seahawks. And the Rams were running all over you the first game and scored a pretty decent amount of points on you as well. So when we culminate all that, your defense is going to be your downfall. So what does that mean? The Dallas Cowboys are going to have to score a lot of points on offense. And we already know for the Dallas Cowboys, they're not going to be successful. It's the same thing I say with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys are not going to be successful with their defensive team. You guys are going to be successful if you're an explosive offense. And right now, I must concede, I don't see nearly enough explosiveness from the Dallas Cowboys offense unless you're down by double digits. That's the only time I see explosiveness. Because right when you get down double digits, Dak starts flinging that ball down the field to Michael Gallup. And CeeDee Lamb starts galloping into the end zone looking like a lion instead of a lamb. And then you see Amari Cooper start running those crisp routes and catching one-handed balls. You see all these things. But in the flow of the game, when the game is teetering, the Dallas Cowboys fold. And then when they're behind, they play their best. But you cannot do this. I told you this. They cannot do this against elite competition. The Atlanta Falcons choked the game away. Like Skip Bayless said on Undisputed, were hypnotized by the ball when it was spinning. And the Falcons were just looking at it like a bunch of fools and then hop on the ball, knowing that if they hopped on the ball, the game would be over. But they didn't do that. And yesterday you played an elite quarterback who has an elite team, who is arguably the MVP right now, Russell Wilson throwing 5 touchdowns on your sorry defense. And that's what it culminated into. But Dak Prescott, it's like I've been saying since the start of the season, it's a 16-round fight between him and Jerry Jones. Now, yesterday, Jerry took round 3. Dak had a good day. Had a great day, matter of fact. He had a great day.
500 yards. He still took the L on that day.
37 to 57, 472 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm not going to give him flack for that last interception. It was a bad throw, but, you're just trying to make a play to get the ball to the end zone. So he threw 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in all actuality. But we're not going to give him – I'm not going to give him credit for that last interception. He's just trying to make a play. Now, in all actuality, he should actually have thrown 2 interceptions because that one ball that what's-his-name caught that Michael Gallup caught when the corner was sitting on the ground, that should have been a pick right there. The game probably would have been over. So you can make an argument that Dak Prescott should have two interceptions anyways. But needless to say, the Dallas Cowboys offense just does not look nearly explosive enough to me when the game matters. When the game starts teetering, they fold, and then when they get down by double digits, that's when they start throwing it all over the field because teams start loosening up their covers. They start letting these Dallas Cowboy receivers run free, and you see Michael Gallup start galloping past corners, and Dak Prescott launches it, and boom, touchdown. So that's my problem with the Dallas Cowboys. Your offense has the playmakers. It has the coaching, apparently, to score with the best of them. But when the game is meaningful, you guys seem to do meaningless things. And then when the game is meaningless, you guys do meaningful things. And this just does not add up. And my problem ultimately with the Dallas Cowboys is this. I just don't see what Mike McCarthy's bringing to this team. I see no improvements. This looks like relatively the same offense. You're going to feed Zeke. I mean, yesterday Zeke was rendered ineffective. He just didn't have a good game. Zeke looked terrible. He looked terrible. That was a terrible game from Zeke. Dropping passes on screens, dropping passes on swing passes, 14 carries for 34 yards. I mean, his longest run was 9 yards. I mean, not nearly enough from your $90 million back. Not nearly enough. But when I'm looking at these receiving numbers, I mean, you got this guy Wilson 5 for 107. You got Michael Gallup 6 for 138. Cooper 9 for 86. Lamb 5 for 65. I mean, these guys are putting up some numbers, but where is the points? 31 is not enough. 31 was not enough when the other team scores 38. But I'm just saying, I don't see anything that Mike McCarthy's bringing special to this offense. That's all I'm saying. This looks like the same Kellen Moore offense. Please tell me what you see. Please, because I don't see anything different. Do you see anything different with this offense? You guys are doing the same thing. You're going to try out 3 receivers, 1 running back. You're going to be in the shotgun. Dak's going to sit back there. He's going to throw the ball. And then if you're not doing that, then you're doing a predictable run with Zeke under center, and you're going to hand it off and let Zeke try to figure out some hole to get to. Other than that, I don't really see. Just about to give our guest, Mr. Jordan Green, the floor, Cowboys fan himself, to explain what he's saying from this offense. Because like I was saying before cutoff, I just see relatively the same offense. I don't see anything Mike McCarthy's bringing to the table. What do you see with this offense? Please let the Cowboys nation know, America's team, as you so claim to call it. Please let us know what you're seeing from this Cowboys offense, from this Cowboys team as a whole.
Well, week by week, I'm seeing progression in our receivers, and more importantly, my guy Dalton Schultz coming to the occasion. Big play that he ended up just getting an incomplete pass on. Could have stuck his route. A mistake Jason Witten would have never made. But I'm seeing development in him. I'm really, really excited to make sure that Amari Cooper stays healthy. I'm very fearful and frantic of injuries, and I can't have Amari Cooper going down because that puts other people in the spotlight. One thing that gets extremely unrecognized and underrated is Michael Gallup's concentration on deep balls. It is to see it, and it's so consistent and unspoken about. It's usually one big play a game, but somehow Michael Gallup comes down with these very low percentage catch opportunities, and he's making it come through. But it's Dak's prove it year. Years before, I'm extremely critical of his decision making, and
every time
I need him to show up in playoffs. We're having empty drives, but I'm not gonna say these are empty calorie stats. Not this year. His offense alone, I think he's doing a great job. But we're asking him to be a superhero. And I need more contribution, and I need more of a statement from our defense more than my offense at this point. With that being said, I don't think you can. Well, we seen it last year with the Super Bowl, high scoring offenses or whatnot. But I need the emphasis to be put more on our secondary, and more on our secondary, and more on our coach's ability to focus on detail, because we just have too many bonehead plays with it, whether it being Tony Pollard dropping a punt on the one, or a punt on the one, just blown coverages. Tristan Hill, are you serious? Do you really want to kiss Russell Wilson that bad? Or just plays in general. And thankfully, I'm happy that we can get this all out the way now, so we can start building our momentum, because man, for a Cowboys fan, Thanksgiving and December has always been a rough seasons for Cowboys fans, because for some reason we just blow it in the end. But this year we're going to be riding a lot of momentum. Our division's shaky, so hopefully we can pull the division out and anyone can win in the playoffs. So I can't wait to see that.
I mean, when I'm looking at you guys, I'm looking at this schedule. I mean, your next 3 games are versus the Browns, the Giants, and the Cardinals.
Let's go.
Before you have 2 straight division games against the Washington football team, and then ultimately the Eagles. So, I mean, the Browns, they've won 2 games in a row, albeit against some shaky competition, but nonetheless, they've won 2 games in a row. First time over 500 in, I don't even remember the year, but I saw it on Twitter that this is their first time over 500 in a few years, and we know how terrible the Browns have been forever. So, they got weapons, they got people that can beat your secondary, but to me, this should be a get right game. That should be a get right game for the Dallas defense because Baker Mayfield is he's not that good right now. And then you got the Giants. I mean, we don't even need to say anything about them. They're 0-3. And then you get the Cardinals. Kyler Murray's looking impressive, but he threw 3 interceptions yesterday against the Detroit Lions. So, as much as I love Kyler Murray, he still got some stuff to prove. So, I mean, you guys are 1-2 right now, but I think all 3 of those games are winnable games. Like you could arguably win those next 3 games, and you could be what 4-2 at the end of that stretch before you get 2 division games against 2 sorry teams in the division. You could go on a 5-game run. You guys should. If I'm being honest, if I'm being realistic, with the talent that's on your guys' roster, these next 5 games you should go 5-0. You get to play the Browns. You get to play the Giants, who are winless. You get to play the Cardinals, who they got D-Hop. They got a nice offense and whatnot, but I think their defense can be had. They have some impressive players, but overall, collectively as a unit, I don't think they've, they're still a work in progress. They can do some things, but they're still a work in progress. So their defense can be had to me. And then you get to play Washington, who Chase Young just got hurt yesterday. Matt Ioannidis just got hurt yesterday. So, that kills some of their defensive line depth, which is the only strong part of their team. And then you get to play the sorry Eagles, my sorry Eagles, and the abomination that they are. So, arguably, if we're being realistic, you should win those next 5 games. I'm just saying, guys should be on a 5-game winning streak. And what would that put you at? 6-2? That put you at 6-2, and that would easily put you at the top of the division. So that's my take on it. But I think looking at this division as a whole, I mean, you got the Eagles 0-2-1. You got the Washington football team 1-2, Cowboys 1-2, Giants 0-3. This is the worst division in football by far. Like, I'm just looking at this stuff. This is a terrible division. Like, I can't even really, you can't even really argue with what you're seeing out of this division. Like, you have 3 teams that should be 0. Like, you have the Dallas Cowboys should be 0-3. You would have 3 teams in this division that are 0-3, and 1 team that's leading the division that has 1 win. Like, this division, there's just not much to talk about, really. If we're being honest, there's just not much to talk about with these lackluster teams in this division. That's why I continuously say no. I've already conceded the Eagles. They just need a clean house because it's a disaster in Philly right now. There's just too many different things going on. And then when I'm looking at the Cowboys, I just feel like there's something always missing. Like, I just don't see any of these teams in the division as actual contenders for anything. Like, yeah, somebody from this team's got to make the playoffs. We know that. But beyond that, Cowboys most likely going to be a one-and-done team, and they're going to win 1 playoff game, and then they're going to be out of the playoffs. We already know this. We can't convince ourselves of anything otherwise. We haven't seen anything otherwise to prove to prove the hypothesis. They haven't been to an NFC Championship game in a quarter century. None of us were alive the last time they made an NFC Championship game. I mean, I'm just looking at this stuff. I'm just saying, we're looking at the powerhouses in the NFC. The Saints, they're my Super Bowl pick. Matter of fact, I'm going to just get to it because the Saints, they're disappointing me right now. I just don't know what's going on with them. Drew Brees. His arms clearly. Who?
They're playing good teams.
The Saints. I mean, they lost to the Raiders, though.
They got swarmed by the Raiders.
The Raiders are an average team. The Raiders are an 8-8, 9-7, 7-9 team. They're an average team. They're not an elite team in the AFC West. They're going to get trounced by the Kansas City Chiefs, who own that division. Like, the Kansas City Chiefs only lost like 1 division game over like the last 4 or 5 years against anybody in that division. The division, they basically own the division. Everyone else is their son. Like, I'm just saying, the Raiders, they're not really nothing. They just lost to the Patriots yesterday. They're nothing to write home about. They're an average team. So I mean, Drew Brees, he didn't look good against the Raiders. Like, Drew Brees, his arms clearly dissipated. That's for sure. Like, he's just not taking any shots down the field at all. Michael Thomas is the perfect receiver for him because Michael Thomas isn't beating you really down the field either. But I mean, he was offensive player of the year, so I can't take that away from him. But Drew Brees, he played a good game yesterday, but overall as a whole, I'm just not impressed with what I'm seeing from Drew Brees. I'm concerned. And what I'm even more concerned about is this Saints defense. The Saints defense is just, I expected it to be better. I expect it to be better, honestly. They got players in the secondary. They got Marshawn Lattimore, who's one of the top corners in the league. They got Janoris Jenkins, who was just getting victimized yesterday with penalties. They have Malcolm Jenkins, who's not looking too stellar right now, getting targeted all over the field. You got Demario Davis. You got Cameron Jordan, Marcus Williams. I mean, this defense should be better, and Dennis Allen is a good defensive coordinator. So I just don't understand what the Saints what they're doing. I mean, Drew Brees, he had an impressive day yesterday, but I just don't see the same velocity on throws. I don't see the same arm strength. He's obviously not throwing it down the field, and I think against legit playoff competitors, Drew Brees can be limited. I mean, we saw it last year in their playoff game last year against the Minnesota Vikings. Drew Brees wasn't even the best quarterback on his own team that day. That was Taysom Hill. He was the best player on the field for the Saints. So, I know Drew Brees had a nice game yesterday. Packers have an average defense. Drew, he made some things happen. But overall, I'm just not really enamored with what I'm seeing from Drew Brees. Obviously, Alvin Kamara, he's a beast. I like him a lot. And then, you got Murray, who can do some things out of the backfield as well. They have a good offensive line. But overall, I'm just looking at the Packers. They're just throwing all over you. I mean, you got guys like, you got Alan Lazard looking like Julio Jones out here. I mean, 6 receptions for 146 yards and a touchdown, and you have Marshawn Lattimore on your team, and you're not like, who is Marshawn Lattimore covering? Was he covering Sternberger, Tanyan? I mean, who are these guys that Aaron Rodgers is throwing to? And you're giving up 283 yards of passing to these guys? Lazard, Tanyan, Sternberger, Lewis? Like, Aaron Jones didn't even have a big day. 16 carries for 69 yards, and he only had 2 catches for 17 yards. Saints got a lot to figure out because this defense, it just doesn't look good, and they have too much talent to not look good. And then their pass defense, I'm just concerned about it. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers looks like Aaron Rodgers of old. Make no mistake about it. Aaron Rodgers is just on another level. 3 touchdowns yesterday, no interceptions, 283 yards throwing. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers' arm talent cannot be denied. Obviously, I love Jair Alexander on their defense. You still got the pass rush with Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. Linebacker spots are obviously questionable on the interior. Obviously, they have a good nose tackle, Kenny Clark, though, I don't want to see the Green Bay Packers ever play the San Francisco 49ers again because that is a horror. That's a terrible matchup for the Green Bay Packers, which obviously Kyle Shanahan can exploit them over the middle of the field and exploit their linebackers. So we don't even want to see that matchup ever again. That was just regular season game last year, the playoff game last year. That was a complete mismatch. Styles make fights, and that's not a fight that the Green Bay Packers can win, even with Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. So, I mean, you got that going. Also, I want to transition back because I still have to get on this man, Howie Roseman. I know. I usually don't circle back to the Eagles, but I just want people to understand. I just want people to really fully grasp what's going on here with the Philadelphia Eagles. I just really want them to grasp that this team is not good. You're looking at the Eagles, and they're relying on old players to produce for them at a high level at numerous positions. Fletcher Cox, like I said, before yesterday, had 3.5 sacks over the last 21 games, and he has a cap hit of $22.8 million. And you're one of the highest paid defensive tackles in the league other than Aaron Donald and Chris Jones, not giving us nearly the amount of production for that. Last year he was hurt, but it doesn't matter. If you're on the field, you're required to produce. And I'm just looking at this stuff. I mean, Howie Roseman's draft classes. I mean, when you look at the Saints draft class, it's funny how much the Saints, had gone 7-9 for 3 straight seasons. And then they hit on this draft class in 2017, man. It was a special class for them. They hit on every single pick in that class. First round, got Marshawn Lattimore, solidified their secondary because they were one of the worst passing defenses in NFL history. It's one of the reasons Drew Brees had 3 years of his career wasted because the Saints couldn't get a defense for this man. Could not get a defense for this man. First round 2017, Marshawn Lattimore, obviously the best corner in that draft, top 5 corner right now. Then you get Ryan Ramczyk, arguably the best right tackle in the game today at the bottom of the first round. Second round, who do you get? You get Marcus Williams, a good safety to solidify the back end of that defense. Then you also get Alvin Kamara in that draft. And you also get Alex Anzalone in that draft. I mean, the Saints hit on every pick in that draft. Every single pick. Marshawn Lattimore, Pro Bowler. Ryan Ramczyk, Pro Bowler. Alvin Kamara, Pro Bowler. Alex Anzalone, good player. Marcus Williams, I don't know if he has a Pro Bowl or not, but he's a good safety. And you look at what the Eagles did in that draft in 2017. I mean, this is a joke. You look at their 2017 draft, you have Derek Barnett, who is he's a decent player, but he's drafted at elite player's price, a first-round pick. A first-round pick for an edge rusher at 14, and he has more penalties than sacks in his career. No. Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas in the second and third rounds. No. Cut at the end of training camp this year after being starters for numerous years. Matt Collins, a special teamer for Miami currently, had more penalty yards than receiving yards last year. Donald Pumphrey, an historic running back class, like I already said, with Aaron Jones, with Dalvin Cook, with Joe Mixon, with Marlon Mack. Believe James Conner was in that running back class too. And you got Donald Pumphrey, a guy that's not even in the league anymore. Howie Roseman, you said it was a legendary running back class, and you got guys not even in the league anymore. Talent evaluating, terrible. Nate Gary, who I already told you, this guy in 2020 has given up 13 targets, 13 catches for 158 yards, 2 touchdowns allowed, 10 first downs allowed, 0 interceptions, 0 pass breakups, 156.9 passer rating allowed. Do you realize how atrocious, how terrible, god-awful, pathetic, how bad you have to be to give 156.9 passer rating? And you continue to be on the roster? I mean, goodness. And then you look at the rest of the picks. Elijah Qualls, who we don't even know where he is right now. He could be working at McDonald's for all we know. I mean, I'm just being honest. No disrespect to his career, but let's just be honest about this. And then you look at the disservices that Howie Roseman has done to my man Carson Wentz. I mean, this stuff is just inexcusable. It's really just, this stuff is just flat out ridiculous, man. It's flat out ridiculous. I mean, you look at the wide receivers. I'm sorry to have to bring this up for all you fans. I'm sorry. But when you look at the disservice that Howie Roseman has done to Carson Wentz at the receiver position, this is just no good. Alshon Jeffrey hasn't had 1,000 yards since 2014, and last seen last year had a sack of potatoes and a truck on his back. Nelson Aguilar, who's routinely known for dropping the ball in Philadelphia, and had a fireman call him out on national TV for dropping passes when they're catching babies out of burning buildings, unlike Aguilar. Literally a viral sensation around the world after a loss to the Atlanta Falcons. Golden Tate, who only played 5 games with Carson Wentz and then left in free agency, a waste of a pick that we traded for him. Torrey Smith, who was cut and then retired. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who hasn't had a catch in 12 out of the 19 games that he's played, has 10 receptions for 169 yards in his entire career, dating back to last year, and we're 3 games into this year, was chosen over Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Marquise Brown. Who else? Devo Samuel. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. You got Mike Wallace, who got hurt in the second game after we won the Super Bowl. You have Kamar Aiken, who's out of the league. DeAndre Carter, who is a return specialist. Jordan Matthews, who's been on the Eagles 4 or 5 times and can't get a job with anyone else and is out of the league. Dorial Green Beckham, who is out of the league. Paul Turner, who is out of the league. Josh Huff, who is out of the league. Bryce Trex, who's an NFL agent because he was never good enough to be a wide receiver in the league. No disrespect to his career, but he's out of the league as well. Greg Ward, who's a former college quarterback and is the current slot receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's a fine player, but he has no explosiveness. He can barely get open. He's a nice player, but look at what the extreme lengths that we had to go to. He was a practice squad call-up. Robert Davis, who's a practice squad call-up. Deontay Burnett, who's a practice squad call-up. And Matt Collins, who I just told you about, he is a scrub. I mean, when you're just looking at the disservice that Howie Roseman has done to his quarterback, you see all these other quarterbacks walk into these favorable situations. You saw Patrick Mahomes walk into a situation because it's not just about being an elite quarterback. It's about what you're surrounded with. Patrick Mahomes walked into a situation where he had Kareem Hunt. I mean, granted, Kareem Hunt got hurt, or not didn't get hurt, but got cut from the team. But he was the league's leading rusher the year before, and they were doing some special things before he made a boneheaded mistake and lied to the Chiefs organization. But Patrick Mahomes came into the league with Kareem Hunt, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill, and a solid offensive line. Had one of the worst defenses we've ever seen known to man as far as pass defense, because it was an atrocious defense. But look at the weapons that he had on offense, and he won MVP that year. You look at Deshaun Watson. He came into the league. He had Will Fuller, who's injury prone, but he's a decent receiver as a number 2. And he had the best receiver in the league, DeAndre Hopkins. You look at when Baker Mayfield, his second year, what did the Browns do? They got Jarvis Landry. They got Odell Beckham. They already had David Njoku. And you look at what the Browns did for him even more this year. They added Austin Hooper onto the roster. They added 2 offensive tackles, Jack Conklin, and then they got him, what's his name, Jedrick Wills out of Alabama. They got him Kareem Hunt. They got him Nick Chubb. I'm just looking at all these other quarterbacks. And then you look at what Kyler Murray has. Larry Fitzgerald, all reliable. They traded for DeAndre Hopkins. They traded for Kenyon Drake, who's a decent running back. And then you look at Lamar Jackson. Mark Andrews. Got him Mark Ingram. Got him J.K. Dobbins. Devin Duvernay. Got him Marquise Brown, who the Eagles should have drafted in the first round instead of Andre Dillard. But they missed on him as well. You're just looking at some of these other quarterbacks and the luxuries that they've been afforded. You see what Carson Wentz has been given to work with. Now, granted, Carson Wentz has not been good. But at the end of the day, the only reliable target Carson Wentz has ever had in his career is Zach Ertz. His leading rusher for his career is Wendell Smallwood, who is not even on the team. You just look at this stuff, man. 18, 15, and 1 since the Super Bowl. And honestly, that was an anomaly. That wasn't the trend or the norm for Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman hit on every free agent decision that year. He got Ronald Darby. He got LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi. He literally hit on everything. He got Nick Foles, who ultimately won Super Bowl MVP. That was an anomaly for Howie Roseman, because since then, this team is a average team. Wentz is 15-16 since 2017. The Eagles as a whole are 18, 15, and 1. You got the coach literally punting on the season. Didn't breathe any life into your locker room or anything. At least you know if you kick the field goal from 64 yards and you miss it, you're like, okay, the coach tried to win. But there's no moral victories here. You don't get a moral victory for a tie against the Bengals, the Bungles. There's no moral victories for that. Then you draft Jalen Hurts in the second round, and I just, for the life of me, just don't understand this about the Philadelphia Eagles. They claim to be so in tune with this city, but they're not. Howie Roseman, you got Carson Wentz, who had his MVP year, got hurt, had to watch Nick Foles win the Super Bowl when Carson Wentz probably would have won that Super Bowl, obviously. But, we don't know that, so we can't speculate. But in my opinion, he would have won that Super Bowl. And Nick Foles, you saw Nick Foles win it. Not only did Nick Foles win it, you put up a statue of Nick Foles. So Carson Wentz, the franchise quarterback, sees that every day going into work. How would you feel? And then not only that, you have players building shrines of Nick Foles in the locker room. You had the team. You got half the team that's split on Carson Wentz and Nick Foles. Some people want to trade Carson Wentz and keep Nick Foles. You got fans that clamoring for Nick Foles instead of Carson Wentz. And so finally, Carson Wentz leads a ragtag group of receivers and practice squad players to the playoffs last year. And what do? You draft a quarterback in the second round instead of getting us some help for this roster that is depleted with talent. I mean, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles roster, what players can you realistically say other than Zach Ertz that you realistically want on your roster that you would take off the Eagles roster other than Zach Ertz and Darius Slay? You can't make an argument for any of these guys. I can make an argument that you want Fletcher Cox at a 22.8 cap hit when he's only had 3.5 sacks in the last 21 games up until yesterday. You can't make an argument for Brandon Graham, who doesn't he gets QB pressures and QB hits, but he doesn't nearly produce he doesn't give you the elite production as an edge rusher, but he's a decent player. Derek Barnett, he doesn't validate a first round pick. He doesn't warrant that consideration. Javon Hargrave, he's a nice player from Pittsburgh. I mean, I like him, but he hasn't played much so far. Their linebackers, don't even get me started on them. And then you look at their secondary. I mean, Roddy McLeod, he's a decent player. Avonte Maddox, he's a 5'9 corner playing outside. Crayvon LeBlanc, Nickel Roby-Coleman. None of these guys knock your socks off. You don't want any of these guys on your roster. These are depth guys at best, but they're not their friend. This doesn't make any sense to me. The Eagles, this front office, it's done this whole organization a disservice. Howie Roseman has done this team a disservice. There is no way you can keep a Super Bowl window open without good drafting. And when you look at the players that Howie Roseman has drafted, it's just inexcusable. Like, there is no defense of this stuff. And then you have players on the roster that aren't producing. And we can't even get the young guys in. We can't even get the Davion Taylors, the Sean Bradleys, the Kayvon Wallaces in because the other guys are taking up snaps that don't deserve to have snaps. You're telling me Davion Taylor can't get snaps over Nathan Gary, who's given 156.9 passer rating, 13 catches on 13 targets? You're telling me he can't do better than that? You're telling me Kayvon Wallace can't get snaps over Marcus Epps? You're telling me that Sean Bradley can't get some of these snaps on the defensive line over Derek Barnett? Josh Sweat is getting more pressures and more sacks than Derek Barnett. I just can't believe this stuff. At this point, like I said before, this is the second most expensive roster in the league. And it's another thing that Howie Roseman's lauded for. Cap construction. And how is this the second most expensive roster in the league and one of the worst rosters in the league? We have one of the worst rosters in the league, and this is the second most expensive roster going into next year. This is the highest paid defensive line, and other than yesterday when they got 8 sacks, they had underproduced. You produced against a sorry Bengals offensive line that was one of the worst offensive lines in the league last year. Big whoop-de-doo. And then you look at just Roseman's resume as far as acquiring elite talent. You didn't want to trade any picks to get Jalen Ramsey when your secondary was sponsored by Skittles and Lucky Charms. Taste the rainbow. They're magically delicious. Like, you didn't want to trade any picks for Jalen Ramsey, who's the best corner in the league. You missed on Byron Jones. You had to give up picks to get Darius Slay, which was a problem because when CeeDee Lamb was falling in the draft and he was the best receiver in the draft, you could have got him and traded up for him. But no, you didn't want to package your second-round pick that you ultimately used on Jalen Hurts to get CeeDee Lamb. I don't have a problem with Jalen Reagor. He's hurt right now. I like Jalen Reagor. I'm sure he's going to be a good receiver. But CeeDee Lamb was the best receiver in the draft. Let's make no mistake about it. I'm just saying. And they used the second-round pick on Jalen Hurts, knowing that the controversy this would cause. I don't care what they say. You can say, oh, well, we want to use him on pack. And how much is that worth? How much is a Taysom Hill type player worth? Taysom Hill was an undrafted free agent. He wasn't a drafted player. And he was on the Green Bay Packers practice squad, and the Saints just got him off of there. It wasn't like he was some special utility player that he was drafted for, like drafted in the NFL draft. He was an undrafted player. And now you have fans clamoring for Jalen Hurts. Like I said, it's fair. But when you look at the realisticness of that, Carson Wentz if the Eagles got rid of him, $59 million cap hit next year, $25 million in 2022. There's no way the Eagles can realistically get rid of Carson Wentz and put themselves in cap in cap hell after they're already in cap hell for next year with the second most expensive roster, already being over the cap for next year? You can't do that. I mean, the fault of Carson Wentz is his fault, but it's also this front office's fault. It's this coaching staff's fault as well. You didn't want to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. You didn't want to trade for Stephon Diggs. I mean, this is just some inexcusable stuff. Like, where do you go from here? Like I said, you're looking at an 0-5-1 start. I mean, you just look at the Philadelphia Eagles. I just said it before. The biggest telltale of this team is the fact that they played the Bengals and the Washington football team, the teams who had the number 1 and number 2 overall picks in the draft this past season, and the Eagles have not one victory. They don't have one victory against the Bengals and the Washington football team. This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't look good. This does not look good. Your offense is struggling. You're not going to be successful with a defensive team. You're looking at the Eagles. They're stuck in rudimentary ways as far as their passing game is concerned. 12 personnel. Didn't invest enough in the secondary. I mean, I just for the life of me just don't understand. What the Eagles are doing. Everyone keeps telling me Howie Roseman is such a smart guy, but he builds teams wrong. Wrong. Howie Roseman's never proven to be an elite GM. The Eagles were 9-7, 7-9, missing the playoffs or winning one game and then getting bounced out in the second round, or getting to the playoffs and getting bounced out in the first round. That's their ceiling. This team isn't a team that can contend outside of the 13-3 year. Which was an anomaly. Howie Roseman hasn't done a good job. I mean, what more do we need to see from this guy after 10 years? What more do we need to see? What more is there? I mean, I could just name the numerous players that the Eagles have just missed on in the draft. They've had opportunities to draft, and you're just looking at this stuff. I mean, Howie Roseman. I swear I could be an NFL GM. I'm sorry. I wholeheartedly believe that I could be an NFL GM because some of this stuff, as far as picking players, I mean, some of this stuff is just inexcusable. This stuff just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. I can't even make it make sense. I can't even convince myself to be like, I can see no, I can't even do that. I can't even do that. You're looking at what the Eagles have to work with these next few weeks. It's not good. You got the 49ers coming in. You got to play them on Sunday Night Football. You're likely to get beat down that game. Kyle Shanahan's looking his chops seeing the Eagles linebacking core. Then you got to play the Steelers defense. Oh my, oh my. And then you got to play the Baltimore Ravens who can run over anybody. And your defense already doesn't have athleticism and speed, despite the fact that you were telling us that the Eagles had the most athletic draft class, and your main goal this year was to add speed. I don't even know if the Philadelphia Eagles could beat the New York Giants. You get the Giants after those 3 games. You got the Cowboys. You get the Giants again. Then you play the Browns. And then you have a terrible slate to end the season. You get the Seattle Seahawks, the Green Bay Packers, the New Orleans Saints, and the Arizona Cardinals and the Cowboys in a 5-game stretch. I don't know how many games this team's going to win this year. They may only win 4 games, 4 or 5 games. Only teams they may beat is I can't make a sound argument, even though the Cowboys should be 0-3. I can't make a sound argument that the Eagles are going to beat the Cowboys in either of their matchups this year. I don't think I can make a sound argument that they're going to sweep the Giants. They've already lost a game to the Washington football team. I can make an argument that they're going to beat the Browns. I mean, at what point do you just sit down Carson Wentz, see what you got in Jalen Hurts, and see if you could trade him for something? At what point do you just full sail on this roster and just start acquiring picks? At what point do you do that? I think if you're 0-5-1, I think you got to full sail this team, which is what I expect. I expect the Eagles to be 0-5-1 over these next 3 weeks. There's no way they're beating the San Francisco 49ers. I can't see them beating the Steelers. And there's no way on God's green earth that's 75% water that they're beating the Baltimore Ravens. This is about a 4 or 5 win team. So what, they're going to be 5-10-1, 4-11-1? And at that point, heads have to roll. You got to get rid of the GM. I'm not saying you got to get rid of Doug Peterson, but Doug Peterson can't continue not having an offensive coordinator. He can't continue doing that because the losses of Frank Reich and John DeFilippo, those are some huge losses on your coaching staff because your offense hasn't looked the same since. The Eagles' offense has not looked the same since since they won the Super Bowl. I don't think they scored 40 points since they won the Super Bowl. Shows you their lack of explosiveness. This is not good. This is not good. This is not good at all. Let's talk about this Monday night game before we get out of here. My guest can chime in if he wants to. So when we look at the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, my dog, my homie, the Ferrari, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, favorite quarterback in the league right now. Obviously, I was a big supporter of Lamar Jackson. I hated that he's on the Baltimore Ravens, but nonetheless, I can't hate him that much because I like Lamar Jackson. One, the Steelers to draft him, but the Steelers weren't smart enough to do that, obviously. You look at this game, 2 MVP candidates, 2 faces of the league. It's a beautiful thing that 2 black men are the face of the NFL. It's a beautiful thing. And even with the way Deshaun Watson is playing right now, he's playing like, don't even get me started on him. But, he's going to escape, criticism because of the situation he's in with Bill O'Brien. But we're not highlighting Deshaun Watson's play enough. But I'm not going to get into that right now. He's a good quarterback. But it's a beautiful thing to have 2 faces of the league that are black. This has never been a thing before in the NFL. So this is something special. This is history. But when you look at this matchup between the Chiefs and the Ravens, obviously these are the 2 best teams in the AFC. Pittsburgh, a distant third, could put themselves in that conversation, but Pittsburgh's gonna have to play its way into that conversation. The Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs are proven powerhouses in this conference. You look at this game. You got the Chiefs' weapons going up against arguably the best cornerback tandem in the league. I mean, you look at Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. These are 2 dudes that can cover. You got Chuck Clark in that secondary. You obviously got the Ravens who are going to blitz you to death, going to send rushers from everywhere. They got Calais Campbell up front. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Where's the game going to be decided? I think Kansas City defense is going to decide this game. I think Kansas City's run defense is going to decide this game because if they can't contain Lamar Jackson, they can't contain Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, it could get dicey for the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Now they got Chris Jones in the middle, obviously Frank Clark. Their linebacker spot is highly suspect. Now they won a Super Bowl with this highly suspect linebacking core last year, but against the Baltimore Ravens, you know where Lamar Jackson's going to throw it. He's been throwing it more outside the numbers this year, obviously with Hollywood Brown, and some other dudes that they have on their squad. But we know who Lamar Jackson's number 1 target is, Mark Andrews. And this guy, he's a Pro Bowler last year. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens on the offensive line, they're no joke. That line is no joke with Orlando Brown. Who else do they have on that line? Ronnie Stanley. You got Skura. They got a nice offensive line. No joke about it. And Hollywood Brown, he could get deep on you. So I think the game is going to be decided in the trenches. The question is, because the Kansas City Chiefs are going to score 30. They're going to do that. But the question is this defense going to be able to get stops? Is this defense going to be able to contain Lamar Jackson, contain Mark Ingram, contain J.K. Dobbins? Because the Baltimore Ravens are averaging over like 200 rushing yards a game. I mean, it's just a lethal rushing attack. And then Lamar Jackson's arm is there's something special watching him throw the football. But I can't pick against my man Ferrari Mahomes. I can't do it. This guy is the great equalizer. This guy is something special. Patrick Mahomes, when people can start giving this man his props? Maybe he's already gotten his props. But But I don't think he's gotten enough praise and adulation. I don't think he has. This guy is just something out of this world. I have people telling me that Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in the league. Well, y'all can kick rocks because we've never seen anything like what Patrick Mahomes is doing in this league. We've never seen anything like this. MVP first year, Super Bowl MVP his second year. Arguably could have been back-to-back Super Bowl champs if D Ford wasn't offsides against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Patrick Mahomes would have won a Super Bowl with the worst defense, one of the worst defenses we've ever seen in the history of modern football. I'm just saying, this guy's something special. And when you look at his weapons and his arm talent, his ability to throw off platform, his ability to throw with different arm angles, no-look balls, when you look at all that, I just can't pick against this guy. Now, I'm not going to be shocked if the Baltimore Ravens win, but I also will remind people that ultimately this game comes down to which quarterback can make the throws when they need to make them. And regardless of whatever you want to say, Lamar Jackson has just not been that dude in the playoffs. He's just not been that dude yet. Patrick Mahomes has been that dude. He's been that dude, and he's been it to the highest degree. And so I expect Patrick Mahomes to find a way to win this game. Now, there's going to be fireworks. This is going to be something special. But like I said, I expect Patrick Mahomes to pull it out. Somewhere in the lines of, I'll say the Chiefs score about 33 and the Baltimore Ravens get about 30. I want to see an explosive game. We want to see fireworks after we were cheated out of the AFC Championship game that should have featured these two teams last year. I want to see fireworks. I want to see flair. I want to see explosiveness, and I expect to see it tonight. So with that being said, like I said, Kansas City Chiefs 33-30. That's my prediction. Key to this game, the Chiefs front seven versus the Ravens rushing attack is going to decide this game. That's about all I got for y'all. Until then, I appreciate you guys for being here, listening to the AC podcast, listening to me get on Howie Roseman, listening to me getting on the Philadelphia Eagles and Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz. All three of these guys, heads got to roll. The season's over for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's just beginning for the Dallas Cowboys. They're obviously going to win this division. If they don't, they should be ashamed of themselves, and it should be a disgrace that they're called America's team. I appreciate my guests for joining me.
I didn't understand that.
Bixby, shut up. Nonetheless, you can get everything you need here. If I have any more people who want to come on the show and join me, if my guest wants to come back and join me again next week, the seat is always open. We always welcome people to come on the show. We always welcome people. I don't even know what I was about to say. We always welcome people on the show. We always welcome fan questions. We always welcome whatever our fans want because it's about you guys and what you want to hear. We can do a whole show with just a fan talking if we want to, or just back and forth dialogue. Whatever it is, we will do it. But until then, like, subscribe, follow, support the AC podcast. Until then, I'm out. Thank you for having us.